Okay, well, hello everybody, and welcome to HUBCP's Lounge. And today I've got a very cool, very special guest who's looking extremely dapper. Looking very dapper today, Shaun. I've got to say, I'm feeling a little bit underdressed, if I'm honest with you.
I think I'm a bit overdressed.
No, I like it. But Shaun Doak. Now, hold on. I always get your surname. How do I say your surname?
Doak.
Doak.
Yeah.
So I had it right. So Shaun Doak, who is the CEO of React Specialist Cleaning PLC.
Mm-hmm.
So we thought this would be a really interesting subject because of the times that, unfortunately, we find ourselves living at the moment. And that is, of course, I hate saying this word now, but it's because of COVID-19 and the fact that for many of us, that has just completely transformed the way that we, well, not just the way we interact, but the way now we think about how we stop contracting the virus, and therefore cleanliness has never been such a massive thing. So we would love to pick your brains today, if that's okay, Shaun.
Yeah.
Because I think for many people there is so much out there in terms of what you're supposed to do that it actually all starts to get a little bit confusing.
Yeah, it certainly gets a little bit blurred, that's for sure.
It does, yeah. So what we'd love is to have some real clarity, some real definition. Yeah, let's stick with some real clarity around what exactly is the best way to keep safe in these weird times that we find ourselves in. Now, before we get to that, we always like to know a little bit about the person that we're speaking to. So, Shaun, tell us about yourself, tell us about your business, and just essentially how's everything been so far?
Yeah, things are going really well. We spoke back in March when things started.
When it was all kicking off.
Yeah, when things kicked off with COVID. A lot's changed since then. We geared up really quickly. COVID-19, although we're not a COVID-19 story per se. We have increased our engagement with customers, doing quite a lot of decons. Everything from
What's a decon?
A decontamination.
Okay.
So everything from
It's quite obvious, isn't it?
Yeah. Everything from a police cell all the way up to whiskey distilleries. Pinewood Studios in London, Harry Potter World. Yeah.
Wow.
So it's quite diverse. And
did you turn up with your gear then? For
I
that
did.
one? That's a pretty good one to go to.
That's in the car. That one. Yeah. So since we spoke, we did a fundraise at the end of May.
Yeah.
The share price was in a good place. We thought we'd be a good position to go out to market, do a fundraise, look at strengthening the business and the marketing and the sales side of things. When we do come to do some acquisition, we're in a good place to do that within our means. So
brilliant. Did you ever think you'd find yourself in such a sexy sector right now?
No, not at all. I'm not too sure it's still sexy, but it's certainly.
It used to be, didn't it? Technology was number one. I guess now cleaning's overtaken.
Exactly. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's really true.
So how long have you been the CEO?
I've been CEO since February this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what was your background prior to that?
So my background initially was architecture. Then I fell into sales. Then ended up going back and doing a business management degree.
Yeah.
Had 11 years, well actually 13, 14 years within the M&E sector from like a sales management point of view. And then kind of migrated across to the FM space. Before this I was head of sales within that market. And then React came knocking on the door, and the rest is history, as they say. So
I'm trying to point your accent. Whereabouts are you from?
I'm from the northeast.
So Newcastle, Sunderland?
I'm actually from County Durham, but I'm a Newcastle fan.
So you're a Newcastle fan?
Yeah, unfortunately.
1-1 yesterday?
Yeah, it was okay.
Not bad, I'll take that, right?
Yeah, I'll take that.
I'll tell you what, I like Steve Bruce. I was in
Do you really?
Yeah, I was in a, this was last year, I was in a lift in London, and he popped in.
Right.
As football managers do.
Just popped in the lift.
I was like, that's Steve Bruce, and he was such a lovely guy.
Oh, really?
Such a nice guy.
Right.
Got my phone, selfie with him, all that sort of stuff. Liked him so much that actually I'll say Newcastle's my second team now because of Steve Bruce.
Who do you support?
Leicester City.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, doing pretty well, right?
Yeah, you're doing all right. Yeah.
Anyway, what are we talking about? Yeah, so Shaun, business has been good, which is always great to hear.
Mm-hmm.
It's always lovely to hear that. People leaving a business. It's
always positive.
Beats the opposite, doesn't it?
It helps, yeah.
Now, just something that we had a quick. I think we mentioned at the beginning. Maybe we didn't. I can't remember. But you were one of the very few people that I have met during COVID actually completed a successful raise.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
So just quickly tell us about that.
Yeah. So we went to market end of May. And did a fundraise. I think we went to market for about 750,000, and we were oversubscribed, so we raised the maximum that we could, which I think from memory was about 1.5. So yeah, really successful. We did it over 2 days, back-to-back Zoom calls, Teams calls, which was quite interesting. And we went from one institution to, I think we've got 5 on board now, and some big institutions as well.
Really?
Yeah, so so it's really, really positive. So we're in a good position. Cash position's brilliant. Further down the line when we start to look at some M&A, we're in a good place to do that within our means.
And do you do that sooner than later?
We start looking at under some rocks right now, but that's all I can say really.
Okay.
When we did the raise, we were focusing on the organic piece, which we've done really well. We've grown about 44% in the last 12 months.
Wow.
So we're in a good place. So it's quite exciting, really.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But I'd really like to concentrate on you and in terms of leadership style.
Yeah.
Talking to many people,
Mm-hmm.
business throws up enough curveballs as it is.
Yeah.
And then this came along.
Yeah.
And for many, it's just obviously unlike anyone could have ever expected,
Yeah.
trained for, being mentored for.
Yeah.
How have you found it being, the CEO of your business? Getting through this, and what have you learned, I guess, through the experience?
I guess it's a strange dynamic. It hit us very quick. We're in an industry where we had to react really quick. So I think the first thing for me was to ensure that all my team was safe.
Yeah.
And I don't just mean my operatives who are out there doing the decontaminations of COVID. I mean the people that are in the office. So we mobilised really quickly, put systems in place that my team could work remotely and safely.
Yeah.
We went above and beyond on the PPE, as we mentioned when we spoke back in March, to ensure that the operatives were being protective out there, so that they weren't going back and the families weren't being worried. I guess the whole dynamic, I'm very hands-on in my leadership. I like to go into the office. I like to have one-to-ones on a regular basis. I like to have meetings outside of work and lunches and dinners, and make sure that everyone's on the same page, that I'm leading from the front.
Yeah.
Whereas now, that conventional style, you can't do it. So we've had to adapt. There's more Zoom calls, there's more one-to-one phone calls, and it's just remaining engaged with them really. And that's one thing. Certainly in the initial stage, the communication piece was absolutely key.
Yeah.
And then I guess probably 4 or 5 weeks ago, it dropped off a little bit. I've been conscious of it as I've reflected on holiday, that we do need to pick that back up, just to ensure that we're all singing off the same hymn sheet, we're all working in the same direction. And in fact, we've got a meeting tomorrow just to pull everyone together, just to look at, if we were to start the business from scratch today, what processes will we put in place?
Cool.
How will we do X, Y, and Z?
Yeah.
What do we perceive our message to be to the customer? Why does the customer buy from us? That kind of thing. So it's almost like resetting it.
Yeah. Yeah. And in terms of being a PLC,
Mm-hmm.
so you're a listed business on AIM.
Mm-hmm.
Was there an element of when this happened, there was like that big gulp and going, oh my gosh, it's like everything we do is out there, it's public knowledge obviously, so somehow I've got to find the wand here to make sure everything keeps on going smoothly and nicely.
Yeah, I was only in the hot seat as CEO for a month, and then COVID happened. So
I didn't realise that.
Yeah, surprised that I was MD. So I was MD.
So you only have 1 month, I think? Wow.
Yeah. So I was MD for a year, and then they appointed me in February as CEO, and then COVID happened in March. So it was a bit of a blaze of glory.
Wow.
So we've been very mindful. Look, the sector that we're in, we've been very mindful not for people to perceive our growth to be a COVID story.
Yeah.
So we've been very measured, because it's not a COVID story.
No.
We do so much more. But certain elements of our business were impacted negatively.
Yeah.
We do a lot in the like for the police forces throughout the country. Obviously, we were in lockdown, so a lot less people were getting arrested. They worked, remotely and doing interviews rather than doing them in cells.
Oh, for business sake.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, who would have thought it, right? But so that dropped off a little bit. But as I was mentioning earlier, the big positive for us was that the COVID piece accelerated that engagement with customers.
Yeah.
Your T1s, your big FM companies.
Yeah.
Which, if I'm honest, probably would have been 6 to 9 months further down the line.
Right.
So although that the whole sales dynamic's completely changed, they've come to us. They've come to us as almost like a consultant.
Yeah.
This is what we've got. What do you recommend? One of the big FM companies in the UK, we are up there as one of 3 suppliers, and the 2 other suppliers are huge compared to us.
Really?
Yeah, but we're rubbing shoulders with them.
Yeah.
And they are coming to us,
Yeah.
giving us opportunities. So it's been a challenge, but it's been interesting. We've turned a negative into a positive at the end of the day.
So are you excited about the future?
Yeah, massively. Yeah.
Which bits most are there for the real taking them?
just some of the customer relationships that we've got now.
Yeah.
You know, I think as we turn on that marketing piece and that sales piece, you know, we can fill that pipeline. We've got more market exposure. People recognize our brand. We've got quite a lot out there in the social media and PR. You know, for various different sectors, they've come to us for advice, similar to the discussions that you and I had back in March.
Yeah.
So you know, we just sent out our trading update. You know, it's the first time that we've ever made profit. Obviously, the figures got to be audited. So I think the future looks really good. We've turned it around from literally nosedive since I joined the business. We put some really good people in place. Completely different business to what it was, 24 months ago. So I think the future's it was really exciting. Yeah.
Awesome. Yes. Let's get to something that is very current right now, and that is the state of the nation, the current times we find ourselves in, and that's COVID-19 now. Obviously, this has been a horrendous thing, and sadly, with the amount of lives that this has lost, it's been a terrible thing for so many of us to go through, and we're all touched by it. So I think it'd be really cool to get some tips in terms of what we can do to keep ourselves safe and to help other people stay safe. Because if you look after yourself and you keep yourself free from it, then you're helping everyone else. So when we had a chat back in lockdown, I remember you said something to me which has literally not left my brain, which is just take your clothes off when you get home. Now the context was I was talking about getting the train into London, a back commuter train on the underground. You were basically saying now my wife has kept me to that. Whenever I get home, I take my clothes off, and that is not because of anything other than the fact get your clothes off because Shaun said so. Especially, are you still saying to people when you get home, take your clothes off?
It depends where you've been.
Yeah.
And I guess ultimately throughout all this, it depends where you want to draw the line. I think there's been so many mixed messages from the government since all this started.
Yeah.
That literally with every single week, there's different studies come out. I read one yesterday that they think the virus can live on porous surfaces, so things like this, for up to 2 weeks now.
Is that so? Like your jacket?
Yeah. Whereas before it was, I think, 4 or 5 days maximum, or 72 hours maximum. So there's conflict.
Just say that again. Again, you brought me to your lovely jacket then. I got what? How long is that?
Up to 2 weeks.
Up to 2 weeks.
Yes, I think so. So things like carpets as well. They believe that it can now live within those surfaces for 2 weeks. That's what I read yesterday. But this is the thing, there's so many different conflicting articles out there and studies that when we originally spoke, there was only 2 studies out. So I think, again, it depends on your circumstances. Have you been on the tube? Have you been on a train? Did you drive? I used to, as I said to you back in March, we used to get the train quite a lot into London, especially for business. Obviously, with the way that the dynamic has changed, people aren't in the offices still. So inevitably most of my calls or meetings are on Zoom or Teams calls.
Yeah.
But there have been a few instances where I have got the train, and when I do get back, my clothes do go straight in the washing machine.
And that's not shake. Straight in. Straight into the.
As daft as it sounds, though, you can shake your laundry, and if you have got the virus on you, then you could disperse that into the the kitchen or wherever.
Do you live in a state of paranoia with your job? Being so close to all that sort of stuff.
I think I did initially, if I'm honest, and that's not like me. I think I'm more relaxed over the last 4 or 5 weeks.
Really?
I think people have got a little bit tired of the mixed messages. I think, and the lack of probably ownership from the government, which people are quick to criticise. I'm not criticising the government. I just think that these kind of things when pandemics happen, there's so little known about the virus that we don't know which way to do, and I guess it's better to err on the side of caution to go the other way.
Yeah.
But just on social media, you can see it yourself. There's a lot of unrest out there. People are getting fed up of being told that you can't go and see your parents. Certain regions are on lockdown. My parents live in the northeast. I can't see my parents at the moment.
Yeah.
And there's an increasing amount of people who are pushing for that herd immunity, but we know so little about it. We don't know if there is a vaccine, if it'll ever work. Will it just be a vaccine similar to the normal flu? It'll help our bodies fight it when we get it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we'll not contract the virus.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's a difficult one, really. I think. We certainly over the last few weeks we've had a few journeys to London on the train.
Yeah.
Social distancing on the train's really good. Granted, I haven't been on the tube. We've generally walked or
I've heard there are Muppets that still go on the tube without a mask on.
Yeah. How I see it, I see it all the time. I mean, we've just got back from Greece.
How was that on a plane then?
Oh, it's a nightmare.
Was it?
It was an absolute joke.
I thought you were about to say, oh no.
No, it was really disappointing. So we had a package holiday. Went with TUI. They put on a larger plane because there was 2 flights flying out to Greece, and it was absolutely full. Was it? Yeah. They boarded us ironically in rows, so blocks of like 5 to 10. So they got us aboard in rows. But then we sat down, and then behind, they'll come. They're all putting the things into the hold. So everyone's sat down on
everyone
top
wearing
of
a mask.
Everyone was wearing a mask.
Okay.
Other than when you're eating and drinking, yeah.
That's not something.
Yeah. But there was no testing when we landed in Cos.
Really? Nothing
at all. They were set up to test. There was a few suspect people on the plane, they were sneezing and stuff like that. Yeah. But there's no testing at all. They have the presence.
So basically, when you arrived on holiday, you're a bit prang, right? You're a bit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's crazy though. But you laugh, but we spent, the last 6 months, 7 months, or whatever it may be, literally washing our hands all the time, sanitising, making sure that everything you purchase, you sanitise, avoiding public places to a degree, and then you get on a plane that's full, which, let's face it, are germ boxes anyway. And then you get to Greece and they tell you that everything's COVID secure, and it wasn't really.
Really?
It wasn't really. They had hand sanitizers around the hotel. It was a good hotel. They've got the stickers on the floor and everything else, but once people have had drinks, it just goes out the window. You can just see it. You can literally watch it happen throughout the day. Gets to night time.
So are you glad you went away?
We needed a break, yeah.
Yeah. So you're able to recharge then, and went, okay.
Yeah, definitely.
It just wasn't.
The thing is, if I'd stayed in this country, I wouldn't have switched off.
Yeah.
Granted, I took my laptop. I did have a few calls and a few Zooms, but nothing major.
Yeah.
Whereas if I was here, then I would have been bombarded with calls.
So
I just needed a bit.
When did you get back?
We got back last Wednesday.
Last Wednesday.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're having COVID,
I'm all right
symptoms
now.
you'd probably be having right now. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, I can relax a little bit.
I've got mask back.
Let's get back to COVID then, in terms of prevention and keeping safe and clean. So I'm going to ask this question 2 ways.
Okay.
If you are someone who runs a business and you've got a workforce,
Mm-hmm.
what are some of the things that you need to be doing to making sure that you're keeping everyone as safe as they can?
Okay.
And I guess the second question from that is, on a personal level, what should you be doing personally? What should you be taking responsibility for to make sure that you can do everything to keep yourself as safe as possible? So starting with, if you're an employer with loads of people.
I think the first thing is to make sure that if you do have to have people in the office, to ensure that their workspaces are redesigned so that then people maintain social distancing.
Yeah.
Hand sanitizer stations throughout the office.
Everywhere, you say?
Yeah, it's just better to have too many than too little.
Yeah.
Just to ensure that people are actually using them. Basic things like if you do sneeze or you do cough, that you're catching it in a tissue and you're throwing it in the bin straight away.
Yeah.
As daft as it sounds, I know we've heard this a million times, but wash your hands for at least 20 seconds. The reason it's 20 seconds.
It really works, is it?
Well, 20 seconds is the kill time.
Is it?
Yeah. So if you wash your hands just with water, it's not washing away the virus. So the virus is covered in or is coated in a lipid, so it's protein and fat. So if you don't use soap, any soap, you're not breaking down that layer, and that kills the virus. So that's where the 20 seconds come from.
Really?
Yeah. So it's like any chemical that you use to clean a surface. Every single chemical will have a different kill time. So some will have 5 seconds, some will have 10 seconds. And if you're not actually physically wiping that surface down with, like a detergent, like a soap and water, and giving it a thorough clean, then any chemical that you're using afterwards will be null and void. So you actually have to physically do a clean before you do a decontamination.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what people. That's the piece that people miss.
I'm religiously washing my hands.
Yeah.
But I'd heard this 20 second. I was thinking, well, come on. I'm sure that's just to make sure people actually just have a proper go at it. But it's actually,
No, scientific.
So that's equivalent of singing Happy Birthday, isn't it?
Twice, yeah.
Twice.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But this is the thing that frustrates me. I'm from the M&E background before I came into the FM and cleaning space, and there's so much money put into the M&E design of buildings. From infrareds, and you go into this. I've just been to the services there. I washed my hands when I came out of the bathroom, and it's only time for like 5 seconds, 10 seconds. So we just fall short, and I think there needs to be a complete redesign from an M&E point of view of what technology is utilised and how we utilise it to ensure that people remain safe.
Yeah.
So it's quite.
I'm getting panicked now. I'm thinking of loads of stuff. Right? I'm a complete hypochondriac, so you go to the toilet, you wash yourself. What are you going to do about that damn flipping handle then for the door toilet? Well, have you got to then go as soon as you come out, go and then find an anti-bac soap or something like that?
Basically, that's how crazy it is.
It has to be, right? Because then you've done all the hard work and then you touch something.
Yeah. When you think about it, you go into a petrol station. Everyone puts on plastic gloves. They fill up.
Yeah.
And you put the nozzle bar. You go in. You put your mask on. You go and pay. It's contactless. But before you do that, you might get a can of Red Bull or a water or whatever. Now, someone has loaded that into the thing. So what happens if they had it and they were, symptomatic at that time? You don't know, do you?
No, you just don't.
So then you're getting back into the car, and as daft as it sounds, I'm taking my mask off. I'm putting antiseptic on my hand, make sure my hands are clean, and then if I have got a bottle of water, I clean the bottle of water. That's how crazy that life is at the moment.
And that's exactly what you do.
I do, yeah. I really do. Because I'd rather be safe than sorry.
Yeah. Because
someone has physically loaded that into the machine. So you don't know how long it's been there. It might have only been there 2 hours. You don't know.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. It's, we started initially where everyone was really scared and they went above and beyond, and then it kind of petered off a little bit. But I still do basic things like that.
Okay, right. So note to self: be meticulous now. Just think about everything.
Yeah.
Everything. It's like the steering wheel. I even now make sure I've got some wipes just to always just keep on touching that as well, because that's going to carry stuff on it.
Yeah.
Is it an airborne disease? Like I'm now thinking, Shaun, I felt quite relaxed before we started talking. I started to get started to feel itchy and
you got a sore throat.
In terms of, is it airborne? Do we need to worry about the aircon? Is there anything we can do about air conditioning and what have you?
No. So it generally we breathe it out. That's why we wear the masks. And then
so you breathe it out.
Yeah. So if you got it and you're asymptomatic, so you're not showing any symptoms.
Yeah.
You're breathing it. All right. So that's why they tell you to cover your mouth and your nose.
Got it.
Because it's like fluid dynamics. It goes straight where you're pointing, which is where the 2 meter comes from. Because it tends to be 2 meters before it drops to the floor. If you're not wearing a mask, then some of the particles of the virus can actually, because they're so fine, can actually be picked up in the atmosphere, in breezes and stuff like that. So that's why they're encouraging us to wear masks. That's the science behind it.
Really?
Yeah.
So a mask really does work then? There's no doubt. There's no doubt in it.
It does. But to go back to your question about air conditioning and vent, I did look at it in the early stages, and there are companies out there who are, fogging the ventilation systems and the ductwork systems. But if they're utilising like heat recovery units as they should be and everything else, then there shouldn't really be much of an area for concern. Aeroplanes, not too sure about that. I did read an article months ago that they were changing the filtration level within aeroplanes, and they were doing physical wipe downs. They were covering the surfaces, all touch points that were protecting against COVID for up to 30 days, and they were doing things like UVC decontaminations on top of that. So again, it's horses for courses.
UVC.
Yeah, so it's generally it's large robots. They're used generally, or the majority of the time, they're used in healthcare settings, so hospitals. So what they'll do, they'll have a robot that comes in, generally about this tall, about 5 foot tall, UV lights. They'll close off the room, make sure everyone's out of it, and it has a really strong blast of UVC light.
Right.
But you have to do a physical clean. You have to do a physical wipe down clean before you can decon it with UVC.
Okay.
They've used it, or they trialled it on the metro in New York. We do UVC as an extra layer of protection if the customer wants it. There are some good handheld devices, quite big. So it's what the client wants.
I've got to stop this itch. I think we have just spotted that, Michael. I think it's time to have a quick chat. How about laptops? So I look at my laptop, and always try and keep my hands clean. But you look at it and think, oh, that needs a bit of a dust down. Is a laptop potentially, quite a risky thing if you're not? How do you clean a laptop? Yeah, sure. What do we do about laptops then?
I just use a laptop wipes.
Yep.
They do say that you should have an alcohol content of between 60 and 70% or above to kill the virus if it is on there. I mean, laptops are, you don't get much higher touch point than a laptop. We all use laptops, multiple times a day. We take them everywhere with us. You could be on a train with it. You could be in office. You could be at home. So I
it's the same as the phone then as well.
it's exactly the same. So I wipe mine down multiple times a day.
Do you?
But again, it's where do you draw the line? You should be, in terms of an office setting, you should be wiping or cleaning and deconning like high touch points at least once a day.
Right.
So whether that's the end of the day or at the start of each day, that it's entirely up to the incumbent.
Yeah.
But as a minimum, that's what I'd suggest.
Okay. Right, now, Shaun, there's something in my household that drives me crazy. Okay, and I said to my wife today that I was going to let you decide whether we keep on doing this. Okay, so a lot hinges on you right now.
No pressure.
Now, every 2 weeks we get a big shopping order, right?
Yeah.
Because actually, one thing we have found through COVID is we've actually stopped going so frequently.
Okay.
And now we do the big shop, and it's really good actually.
Yeah.
It's much better for budgeting and what have you.
Yeah.
But anyway, that aside. Now, it's really difficult because you get a great big order that arrives, then my wife makes me anti-back every single thing before it goes into a drawer, before it goes into a fridge.
Yeah.
Is she right to make me do that, Shaun?
I don't want to fall out with your wife.
It takes me freaking ages to do it.
Yeah, it's a difficult one because initially when COVID hit, as sad as it is, we did it.
Yeah.
We don't do it now. But then we also don't.
But that goes back to your logic earlier, which is it's still being picked by someone.
Yeah, I know. But then, I guess it depends on the surface because the virus stays on surfaces for different periods of time.
Have they done a check on a cucumber yet, or a
I don't know.
courgette, or a cauliflower?
I'll have to look it up. But no, it's a good point. It is a really good point.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you went to the supermarket yourself and picked it, someone actually put it on the shelf.
Yeah.
You don't know. And I'm sure they use gloves and everything else, but you don't know whether they're, it's brought out of the warehouse with someone not wearing a mask and they were asymptomatic and, they breathed on it or they coughed on it. You just don't know. That's the scary thing.
Okay, so Shaun,
yeah.
Am I going to keep on doing it or not?
I think you are.
Yeah? Damn it! Okay, brilliant. Now, the leader of the free world, a very intelligent man, Donald Trump.
Yeah. One of my favourites. Yeah, one of my favourites.
So I've heard some great things from him about bleach and what have you.
Yeah.
As a specialist, Shaun, what has been your reaction when you've heard some of these? Right. I mean, sorry, we shouldn't go into politics here, but just what's been your reaction when you've heard this sort of stuff?
It's just Donald Trump, isn't it?
Have you had clients calling up saying, Shaun, should I be using bleach? Or
do you know what? We haven't actually, surprisingly enough. No, we haven't. No. This is the guy who came out and said that the whole COVID piece was made up and that we shouldn't worry about it. And look at how many cases they've got in America at the moment. The whole situation is completely out of control.
Yeah. Because everything you're saying is you can. There's no doubt about it. You can prevent this by being absolutely meticulous and rigid.
Yeah. The thing is with COVID, regardless of how deadly it is, and I think that's the problem. I think people are downplaying it because they don't actually believe that it's as deadly as what we've had in the past.
Yeah.
But that you can't get away from the fact that it is very contagious.
Yeah.
That's the crux of it.
Yeah.
So, okay, you're fit and healthy, I'm fit and healthy. Hopefully, if we got it, it should just be, like a cold.
Yeah.
But that's not to say that we haven't seen some of our older relatives.
Exactly.
Or, our friends haven't seen their older relatives, or they haven't got underlying health problems. That's the thing that worries me.
Yeah.
I think as a nation, we've gone from one extreme to the other. We've gone from being really cautious or overly cautious, and I don't think the government thought that would be so good at lockdown.
We were, weren't we?
Yeah, really compliant. We did it really well. Whereas now I think you see it on the news. People out getting absolutely wasted on a Friday night, Saturday night. That's when people are hugging each other who they haven't seen for months.
Yeah.
That's when the barriers come down, and that's where that's where it all starts.
Yeah.
So we almost are undoing the good work that we did in lockdown.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I would love to be able to go out for dinner with my friends and go for a few drinks. Because let's face it, no one's really seen anyone for months.
No.
But
I was slightly freaked out when I saw you for real. Because all the other interactions have been email, phone calls.
Exactly.
It's like, well,
yeah, I know.
Shit,
yeah,
Shaun, he's real.
It's crazy though, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's crazy. Now we've had to, with the engagement with customers or new customers, our first, point of contact has been via a Zoom or a Teams call.
Yeah.
It's just bizarre.
Yeah.
But that's the world that we're living in, and I guess that's a good substitute to not being able to see them in person.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see what happens with the dynamic of business moving forward. Are we going to see loads of commercial offices empty?
Yeah, I was going to get that. That is an interesting question itself. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Have you seen evidence that?
Yeah, we have. So there's a few of our T1 customers have come out and basically said that they were hoping to get everyone back by the end of September, October. Now that's been pushed back to spring.
Yeah.
Do I think it's going to be spring? No, I don't.
You don't?
No, I don't.
Even if you have a vaccine?
No, I don't. I think people like Fujitsu and big corporations have come out and basically said the way forward will be remote working. And I think there's been so many studies done, not just recently, but certainly since I was doing my business management degree, that working from home and mobile working is actually more productive than being in office space, because you have that balance. People have they can go to the gym at lunchtime, or they can take the dog at lunchtime and they work a little bit later, or they can work around the kids. But you'll see, I've seen it myself, the emails I get from my team. Some of the emails at 10:30 at night, 11 o'clock, whereas prior to that, I wouldn't hear from them probably after 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
So I have seen certainly an increase in productivity from my team, and the customers that we deal with, or I deal with personally, at the tier ones, that's what they're finding too.
Really?
Yeah, so it'll be really interesting to see what happens moving forward. I mean, one of our large tier one customers in the rail sector, they've got 2 offices in London. They're actually closing one of their offices.
They really?
Yeah. So be interesting to see what happens moving forward.
Do you think we will have another a lockdown on a big scale?
I think Boris will do everything to avoid it.
Yeah, because it's just the consequence to economic.
I don't think the economy can
take it.
No, I mean, it's so distressed at the moment. Borrowing's crazy. I think he'll do everything in his power to avoid it. Yeah, I really do.
Yeah. So Shaun, just thinking back to something that you mentioned earlier about receiving emails at 10:30. How do you just make sure that if you haven't got your people on site and able to work closely with them, how do you make sure people aren't literally flogging themselves and all of a sudden now everything's actually gone the opposite way, gone out of kilter?
Yeah, I mean it's a really good question. So I've been very mindful, certainly when I came into this role as MD before I was made CEO, that although I work really long hours, and I always have, that my mentor said to me that you've got to be really careful that you don't get to the top of the hill and you've conquered the hill and you look back and all of your troops are dead. So I think we were very quick to gear up for remote working before lockdown officially came in. So we utilised Teams calls and Zoom calls. We actually use Zoom. So we have a management call once a week, but I'm in regular contact with my team throughout. So I know that they are working flexible. I know that if someone's got a hospital appointment, they need to take the relative, they go. We got people who were taking the kids to nursery or to the relatives because there was some challenges around nursery at the early stages of COVID, and there's just more flexibility there. And people, I'm aware of it. I'm aware of it, and I have been open and honest from day one. As long as people are doing what's expected of them. Yeah, and they're working in the right direction, and we're all on the same page, then I'm happy with that.
Yeah. So Shaun, listen, it's been so cool talking to you. Really enjoyed it. I've had a laugh, had a giggle. Probably laughed more than I should have, but there we go. A big part of what we're trying to do with this awesome community that we're building is connecting people, and if you can do business with someone in the network, then that's just great. And that's what we, a big thing of what we want to do by this. So you've got a website, I take it. Which is? It's
reactsc.co.uk.
Okay, so everybody go and check out the website. Now, what sort of people, would be interested in your website then? What's the crap?
Wide range really, regardless of whether you've got an incumbent cleaner, because we're not in the janitorial space.
Okay.
We are a specialist cleaner. But if you want to come to us for any advice, look at ways of perhaps you could improve the incumbent cleaner regime. Give us a call. Look me up on LinkedIn. So we're really strong in the FM space, in the rail, and the healthcare within the hospitals. But as I said earlier, we do quite a lot on the judiciary side. Reactive specialist cleans, the highways. So it can be anything from COVID-19 decontamination all the way up to a fly tip. We work with a lot of housing associations, so it is very broad brush. So anything specialist, we get involved.
Okay.
All right.
Cracking talking to you. I've had a hoot. I've really enjoyed it. So listen, put your hand out. Have a squeeze. Have a rub. Put it there, Rob. So enormous thanks to Shaun for today's HUBCP Lounge. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Now, there's loads of content on the website, so please go onto the HUBCP tab on the Make It Pro website so you can see and get a flavour for all the stuff that we've been doing. And also, if you're an entrepreneur, business owner, and you'd like to be part of this community, then please connect with me. So connect with me on LinkedIn. So I hope you've enjoyed it. We've loved it, and look forward to seeing you guys at the next HUBCP Lounge.